Gemara. Okay, so we're holding here in the Gemara and Mesechta Megillah Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis 31b, and we are in sight of the goal line over here. We're up to Betanius Vibrachas. If you have the Gemara, if you have an art scroll Gemara, you are on 31b3. 31b2, and if you have a regular Gemara, you're in the 5th or 6th wide line on the page of Lamed Aleph on Beis 31b, and we have one more Amud till we're done the Mesechta. So Betanius, on a fast day, the Brachos Uklalos, we read a Torah reading, and we have two opinions. What do we read on a fast day? One opinion was we read Vayechal Moshe. Moshe begged to Hashem, forgive the nation for bowing to the golden calf. The other opinion is that you read the brachos uklalos, the blessings, and the curses, which are in the Torah. In two different places, in the Torah, Parshas Bechukoisai, and the end of Chumash Vayikra, and in Parshas Kisavai, we read a list of blessings and curses. The one in Bechukoisai is shorter, Kisavai is much longer. Bechukoisai, it's part of the 4 books of the Torah, which are said directly from Hashem. And Chumash Devarim, the last book of the Torah, it's said by Hashem, but it's said through Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's repetition, and as Rebbe Darren likes to call it, Moshe Rabbeinu's Farbrengen with the Jewish people. And there is blessings and curses. If the Jews listen to the Torah, you will receive these blessings. And then if you don't listen, you will receive this and this and this and that. And that is what you read on the fast day, says in the Mishnah. The ain mafsikin beklalos, and you don't interrupt in middle of the aliyah. This is the longest shishi in the Torah, longest 6th aliyah. Parshas Kisavai, it's over 60 psukim, 60 verses, because you don't want to interrupt in middle of reading the Torah. Middle of reading the curses. Minani mili. What is the source for this? Amar Rebbe Chia bar Gamda, Amar Rab Asi, the Amar Kral, the pasuk says, Musar Hashem b'ni altimas. Shlomi HaMelech says, my son, don't despise, don't be upset if someone gives you reproof. If someone is telling you something very musar negative, listen to it. And you should treasure it. And we have having hayom yom, treasure constructive criticism, because that will bring you up to the great heights. So in order, the sign of greatness is if you're able to listen to what somebody else tells you, and the pasuk ends, don't be repelled and don't become disgusted if somebody gives you some musar. So in the same thing, Hashem is giving us musar, al-takatz, don't cut it up. Don't cut up when Hashem is giving us a chelik, giving us musar, giving us something. In general, when someone is very close to somebody else, then you're able to reprove them. If you feel distant, you don't care about them. The fact that Hashem tells us over to behave, and if you don't listen, this will happen, is a sign of Hashem's great love for us. And deep down, in spiritual level, it's all full of brachas, full of blessings. And being as we don't want to start or end an aliyah in something negative, therefore we don't interrupt the middle of all of the curses. Reish Lakish Amar, Reish Lakish says like this: you don't make any blessing on Paranias, on anything negative. Just bringing it up here on the screen. Kisavai, the 6th aliyah. So over here, aliyah starts off first pasuk Aleph, Parachav Ches, goes all the way till pasuk Samach Tes. 69 psukim in this one aliyah. It's longer than the rest of the parsha combined. And the first few verses, psukim, as we're going to see in the Gemara, is something positive. If you listen to Hashem, you'll have all these blessings, verse 1 through 14. Verse 15 and onwards comes all the punishments and the admonishments if you will not hearken and listen to Hashem. If you would interrupt in the middle, and according to the current custom, is that every person who receives an aliyah makes their own bracha, their own blessing, you would make a bracha ala paranas. You end up making a bracha over a calamity, over something negative. And we don't want to make a bracha, a blessing on something negative. So therefore, you read from before the aliyah, before the curses start, from verse number 1. If you listen to Hashem, Hashem will bless you. All these blessings will come on you. You go all the way to verse 69, because verse 68 says that's where the final of the curses are completed. And verse 69 says, these are the words which Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu. You don't want to end off on a negative note and make a bracha, a blessing on something negative. You start in a good way and you end in a good way. What should you do? When you begin, when you begin reading the verse before the curses, and when you conclude with the bracha, the verse after the curses. In this way, neither the bracha before nor the bracha after goes directly onto any type of negativity or calamity. Amar Abaya says, a caveat, this only applies in Parshas B'chukoisai. So on the screen, here's all the Parshias of the Chumash. Chumash Bereshis, Shmois Vayikra. The end of Vayikra, the last parsha, is B'chukoisai. And in B'chukoisai, you have the list of curses and blessings which are coming directly from Hashem. And in Devarim, which Moshe Rabbeinu recaps the Torah, reviews the entire Torah, Parshas Kisavai, we have once again, in a much longer form, all the brachas and the opposite of brachas, the opposite of blessings. And the reason why it's so much longer in Parshas Kisavai, in Chumash Devarim, is because Moshe Rabbeinu isn't repeating verbatim what Hashem says, rather he's adding on of his own as well. One is allowed to interrupt in the middle and even make a bracha, and it doesn't look like I'm trying to stop Hashem, stop the Torah in the middle from saying Musar, enough, and you leave in the middle. My time, what is the reason? Halalu berashin rab mehina muras. If you go to Parshas B'chukoisai, if you go to Parshas B'chukoisai over here, Aliyah number 3, it starts off with blessings. 4 verses of blessings. You will, all your grain will be fresh for a long time. I will dwell among you. I will go with you. And from verse number 14 all the way to the end of the Aliyah, to 45, you have once again all the admonishments and the blessings, all the admonishments and punishments. But all of them are said v'nisharim b'chem, among you, lashon rabim, avaynam, imam, imachem. It talks about all of you collectively as a whole. Over here in Parshas Kisavai, when it talks about any curses, it says individual. V'fitzcha, Hashem will spread you. Hashem l'hetiv eschem, but generally becha, in you. Doesn't use a plural term, it uses a singular term. And the reason is Moshe in Parshas B'chukoisai, Moshe was repeating exactly what Hashem said. And when Moshe is repeating what Hashem said, he also said, V'nasati, I will make. Moshe Rabbeinu is a messenger from Hashem's name. And therefore, the Shekhinah is speaking directly from his mouth, from his throat. And if you are interrupting, it looks like you're interrupting the words of Hashem. Halalu, however, here in Parshas B'chukoisai, the Lashon Yachid Amuras, I'm sorry, in Parshas, in Mishnah Torah, in Dvarim, it said in the individual term, expressed in a singular way, you. So it's a less severe type of curse, because not everyone will receive a punishment, only some people. And Moshe said it on his own, by himself. And therefore, if you interrupt, it's not, and make a bracha in between, it's not as if you are stopping in middle, interrupting in the middle. And therefore, it does. You are allowed to interrupt in the middle of the curses in Chumash Dvarim. Although, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu said it by the command of Hashem, he said it with prophecy, with Ruach HaKodesh, but the actual words, you could say, came from Moshe Rabbeinu himself. And also, it's said many times in third term, Yad Bek Hashem Becha. Not I will, but Hashem will do this to you. So therefore, it's not considered to be such a negative thing, and therefore, we can make a bracha on them. Now, when we read the Torah today, we don't make any interruptions. Some say because any interruptions that you make or that you made was only then when they had one person make a bracha by the first aliyah on the Torah, one person at the last aliyah. And therefore, if you interrupt, you just have someone else coming up to finish the kriya, finish the laning. But now, when someone makes a bracha and you make a interruption, you don't have. We don't interrupt at all nowadays. But nowadays, we read all the aliyahs going straight through. And we don't really interrupt, even in Chumash Devarim. What does it mean? Moshe Rabbeinu said something on his own. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say anything on his own. The entire Torah is from Hashem. But the entire Torah, Moshe was saying the words that Hashem put into his mouth. The Shekhinah was speaking from the word of Moshe. By Chumash Devarim, the Maral says he had to put effort to actually say the words himself. He was a messenger giving over the word of Hashem. Meaning he wasn't just a conduit, but he's actually putting in his own effort. Throughout the entire Torah, they were listening to the voice of Hashem coming from the throat of Moshe. In Chumash Devarim, they were hearing the voice of Moshe the way Moshe Rabbeinu's voice is by his own. Levi Barbuti. Now, if you recall, you're in Shul and you hear the Balkari reading the Aliyah of the curses, he usually lowers his voice and he goes very fast. He zooms and he speeds through it. Levi Barbuti have a kari becoming gamgim. So there's a Levi. We have Levi from Erie, but this is Levi Barbuti. One time he was reading in the Torah the portion of the curses in the Torah in front of Rav Huna. The Kamigam came to Rav Huna, and he was stuttering. He was trying to go through it at double or triple speed. And it's very long, and he was going very fast, and he was sort of like muttering it under his breath. Like it was it was hard for him to read. And this is the halacha, and the Rizal says the same thing, that one should read it as quickly and as quietly as possible in order that it shouldn't seem to anyone that you are trying to say anything negative. Baruri, Amar Loi, Rav Huna said to Levi Barbuti, Aknaf Shach, do as you wish. There's no need to rush it. Don't try going so fast that you don't have to, that you don't want to make any interruption. And you're even allowed to interrupt and make someone else have a new aliyah in the middle. In a similar sense, you should never say something something negative to anyone. But if someone is getting an aliyah in the Torah and they're anyways receiving that aliyah and they have something negative, you're not trying to say anything unique to them. So Rav Huna was telling Levi, Barbuti says, if you want to interrupt, you can interrupt. Don't feel like anyone's trying to put anything negative on you. So Mishnah Torah Posek. He said that you were allowed to interrupt in the middle of the admonishment in Chumash Devarim, in Parshas Kisava. In this aliyah, you're allowed to interrupt, but not in the one in Parshas B'chukaisai. And our minhag nowadays is that we don't interrupt, not in neither one, not in this one, not in that one. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, Ezra Tikin Lem Yisrael. Ezra, the one when Jews came back to Eretz Yisrael, and Ezra divided up the land, and Ezra made a special takana for the Jewish people, an enactment. That before Shavuos you should read Parshas B'chukaisai. It always comes out before Shavuos, and usually Parshas Bamidbar is a Shabbos before Shavuos, and you should read. You should read Parshas Kisavai before Rosh Hashanah, and it always is, and not always a Shabbos before, 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. What's the reason? And the Friedrich Rebbe said the same words. Friedrich Rebbe said these same words Erev Rosh Hashanah 1941 or 1940. Amar Abaya, and the reason is my time. Amar Abaya b'teimer Reish Lakish kadesh tichla shanim klosah. Abaya, and some say it was Reish Lakish who said, in order that you should finish the year and its curses, leaving all the negativity behind. We're starting a new year. We're starting a new slate. We don't want to have anything negative left over to us from from last year. All these negative curses, all these negative things is a cleansing process. We want to elevate ourselves to become better, do teshuvah. Once it's done, we're done. We don't have to be mahader. We don't have to try being stringent and having more curses. We want to leave it behind in the year before. It's said by Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's such great blessings, but it's not apparent to everybody. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, if you're familiar with the Kloisenberger Rebbe, he lost 14 children of his in the Holocaust, unfortunately. No, not 14, 11 children. He had 14 children altogether. And he was the Rav in the city of Cluj. It's Kloisenberg. It's a tremendous Talmid Chacham and Tzaddik. Not once, and he went through 11 or 14, I don't remember the number, concentration camps. He was beaten in front of all his chassidim. Terrible, terrible things happened to him. Not once did he eat not kosher food. Not once did he even do any work on Shabbos. Yom Tov, he says, he had no choice. And Shavuos, last Shavuos, he was liberated a week after Shavuos, 1945. And he has tremendous, not the stories he went through is unbelievable. And after the war, many people were broken. Of course, Kloisenberger Rebbe. Kloisenberger Rebbe was, saying he encouraged people. He made people believe in the Rebbe Hashem again. People were broken. People were angry. And whenever anybody saw him, people said, no one suffered as much as him, as the Kloisenberger Rebbe. And he rebuilt Yiddishkeit. He rebuilt his community, although almost all his chassidim were killed. And he went around after the war in all DP camps. There's even a picture. Let me see if I can find it. Kloisenberger. He remarried. He had 3 more children after the war. His son is the current Kloisenberger Rebbe, I think.
The children now, when we became Rebbe?
Yeah, when we became a Rebbe. This Kloisenberger Rebbe actually passed away 3 days after Gimel Tammuz, I think, or the week after Gimel Tammuz.
3 days after? After what?
Gimel Tammuz. The year 19... is it a Rebbe? No, the year 1994. There's a famous picture of Kloisenberger Rebbe in the TP camp saying Kaddish.
The Rebbe now?
Yeah, they have a Rebbe now. It's his son or his grandson. He started Kiryat Sanz in Netanya and Eretz Yisrael in Israel. He opened the big hospital there, Laniado. his goal was to have as many Jewish children being born as possible. So the Kloisenberger Rebbe, okay, this is Kloisenberger Rebbe during the time of the war, and this a certain picture where he's speaking. It's on Yom Kippur, in the DP camps, and there's a picture that one of the American MPs took of him. Anyways, we can't find it right now, but he was a very, very special, unique person. Kloisenberger Rebbe said that nowadays you could say this out loud. He says, because during the Holocaust, we've suffered a lot worse, much, much worse than everything that's said over here in Chumash Dvarim and Chumash Parshat B'Chakoisai. He says, nowadays you can say it out loud. Say all the curse, I'll say all the parsha of the brachas and klalos. This Torah portion, which lists off what will happen if you don't listen to Hashem. Of course, you have the story of the Mittler Rebbe, that he would always hear the Alter Rebbe reading the Torah. And one time, this is before his bar mitzvah, he was fast already, but before his bar mitzvah, someone else once read the Torah, and he heard Parshas B'Chakoisai, and this is 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. He heard it, and he became so sick from hearing everything that he became so weak. The doctors weren't sure if he could fast on Yom Kippur, and they said, "Don't you hear this every year?" And he said, "When my father reads it, I don't hear any curses." Right? And Torah or look at the Torah, Rabbi Darren gave a shiur in this one Friday, how all of the brachas, all of these negative things are actually tremendous blessings. And Alter Rebbe explains what the positive lining in some of them. Continues the Gemara. So you want to conclude in the year before, leave all the negativity, all your baggage, leave it in the past. And therefore, we always read it before Rosh Hashanah and before Shavuos. We purify ourselves, and now we're a new person. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, after having escaped Poland and Europe in the year 1939, he came to America in 1940. On Erev Rosh Hashanah of the year Tashin Aleph of 1940, going into what will be 1941, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the bracha to Chassidim was, Yiratzin shetichle shana kol Yisrael. May it be Hashem's will that the curses of the past year should be finished, should be gone. We should only have brachas, blessings. Unfortunately, we know what happened in the next 4 years. We don't actually read this as Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. We read it 2 weeks before because we want to read Parshas Nitzavim, always a Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. Want to read Parshas Nitzavim before because Nitzavim is you are standing strong, and we're standing ready to be vindicated in the court, in the judgment before Hashem. Here. So the Gemara says, the Parshas Kisava is always read before Rosh Hashanah to leave the curses in the previous year. In Parshas B'Chakoisai, which is in Chumash Vayikra, Atu Atzeres Rosh Hashanah is Shavuos considered to be a Rosh Hashanah? Shavuos is not a Rosh Hashanah. So why do we want to read the Torah portion of the curses of B'Chakoisai before Shavuos? If the purpose to read it before is to finish the curses and leave it in the past, the Gemara answers in yes. Atzeres nami Rosh Hashanah. Shavuos is a Rosh Hashanah. If you learn Mesechta Rosh Hashanah, you'll see that there's Arba Rosh Hashanah, there's 4 Rosh Hashanahs. Right? We say the Chamishas of Shvat, the 15th of Shvat is Rosh Hashanah for trees. There's different Rosh Hashanah for Pesach, and he says is 4 times the world is judged. Let's bring it up on the screen. Okay, let's just bring it this way. Rosh Hashanah 16a. says, "Ba'arba prakim ha'olam nidon." 4 times of the year, the world is judged. On Pesach, your judgment regarding grain. B'Shavuos, b'Atzeres, al peiros ha'ilon. On Shavuos, we are judged, the world is judged concerning the fruits of the tree. Rosh Hashanah, Kol Ba'ya Olam. On Rosh Hashanah, it's every person, every living being in the world. And B'Chag and Sukkos, in Nidayin Alamayim, we are judged about the water, how much water there should be. So, being that Shavuos is a Rosh Hashanah for the fruits of the tree, so therefore we read the curses always before that time. Back to the Gemara. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, we learned that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, Im yomer lachskenim star. Once we mentioned one thing Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, we were mentioning another topic Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said. But this topic actually has much to do, it's actually very connected to the entire Gemara. But let's first read the topic. And this is a topic maybe some of us could relate to. Im yomer lachskenim star. If an older person tells you, star, demolish. V'yiladim, b'nei, and the child tells you, hey, build. Right? So the old person says, pull everything out. And the young person says, invest, build. What should you do? Star v'altivna, demolish and don't build. Mipnei, shestiras kenim binyan. Because when an old person demolishes, when he's destroying something, he's actually doing something very productive. An old person has experience, right? So therefore, when they tell you to demolish, they're actually telling you to do something positive to demolish. Ubinyan na'arim stira, and when a child tells you to build something, it's actually destructive. You listen in this case to those who have experience. You have a politician telling a general what to do. Who do you listen to? The one who fought in the battles and the wars. Right? You don't listen to the child, one who does not have any experience of this. This is just another statement of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Tesefta, which is a brisus, in Mesechta Megillah Daf, he explains this entire statement to be talking about the Beis HaMikdash, that if the elders tell you, destroy the Beis HaMikdash, then, and young people tell you to build it, you should listen to the elders and don't listen to the young people who are telling you to build it. Because the elders are the ones who truly have an understanding what's best. Maybe now it's time to demolish it in order to build something better. A young person wants immediate results, and therefore they're going to go look for what's flashy, what's good. An older person looks at the future, and he plans long-term. And this is connected to what I said before. We are planning out the Torah readings of the year. We're planning it in such a way in the long term. We want to finish all of the curses before the new year comes in. You might think to yourself, don't say anything negative to another fellow Jew before Rosh Hashanah. Don't try bringing any bad judgments, accusations. Do it all after Rosh Hashanah. So there he says, Stidas Kenim Binyan. Ezra said to read it before Rosh Hashanah. Even if it looks like a contradiction, a stira, still you should do it. Do it before. So when an elder person tells you to do something, they should know that they have experience, and you should listen to them. And a young person telling you to do something, we all know from our own experiences throughout life, a lot of mistakes that were made when we are younger, and the older one gets, one has much more knowledge and much more insight into how to give advice and how to do things. So you should always listen to the elders, and they have much more experience. Continues the Gemara. Taner Rabbanon, We have learned in the Brisa, rabbis have taught us there are different methods how you read the Torah. On Monday, Thursday, Shabbos Mincha. What we do is every Shabbos morning you read a parsha. Let's say, choose a random parsha. X out of this. Parshas Mishpatim. You read that on Shabbos morning. By Mincha, you read the first Aliyah, the beginning of Terumah. So now you read the Torah on Shabbos Mincha, Monday, Thursday, Shabbos. What we do is that we repeat the first Aliyah on Monday, and the first Aliyah, repeat again, reading the first Aliyah on Thursday. And on Shabbos, you once again start from the beginning. There's another shita, another opinion how to read, is that you continue from where you left off. You always want to teach something new. So Shabbos morning, you read the parsha. Shabbos Mincha, you read the first Aliyah of Terumah. Shabbos, on Monday, you read the second Aliyah of Terumah. Thursday, you read the third Aliyah of Terumah. Shabbos, you continue from the fourth Aliyah and onwards. So these are the two opinions. What do you read on the Torah readings of Shabbos Mincha, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos morning? Tanur Rabbanan says, our rabbis learned in a Brisa. The place where we leave off in the morning of Shabbos, that's where we continue with Mincha. That's what we do. But Mincha, Sham Karin Basheni. And the place where we conclude reading Shabbos Mincha, so that will be Sheni, second Aliyah. On Monday, you continue reading from that part, from Aliyah Sheni. Basheni Sham Karin Bechamishi. So on Thursday, you continue from the Aliyah of Shlishi, where you left off on Monday. Bechamishi Sham Karin L'Shabbos. And on Thursday, you read the third Aliyah. And on Shabbos, you start from the fourth Aliyah. These are the words of Rebbe Meir. Whenever you read the Torah, you always have to have something new. It can't be a repetition of what you have done before. And therefore, you don't repeat a pasuk twice. We had previously in the Gemara about not repeating a pasuk in the Torah, rather split a pasuk in half to make enough aliyahs. That was Rav and Shmuel. This is the opinion of Rebbe Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, and this is who we paskin like. This is what the halacha is like. Mokin shemafsikin b'Shabbos shachris. On any given Shabbos, you read the parsha, and you continue the next parsha. Sham karin b'mincha b'sheni b'chamishi l'Shabbos haba. You read it, same thing over. You read the first aliyah by Shabbos mincha on Monday, on Thursday, and the next Shabbos you start off from the beginning as well. Even though you read it before, you continue, you repeat it, and you do it over and over. Who is halacha like? I think everybody over here knows. This is a view that's reflected in the Mishnah as well. Oh, I did skip 2 lines in the Gemara. We'll do the halacha and then we'll go back to the line I skipped. Amr Rebbe Zera says, halacha, the halacha is, makon shemafsikin b'Shabbos, shachir sham karin b'mincha, u'b'sheni v'chamishi l'Shabbos haba. In the spot, in the place where you left off after reading the Torah on Shabbos morning, so the end of the parsha, the new parsha, the first aliyah is what you read on Monday, on Thursday by Mincha, and the next week you start over from the same aliyah. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda. Why not just say that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda, Allah is like a second opinion? Why do you have to say, and the halacha is that you repeat it over and over and over? Answers the Gemara, Mishum da'afchilahu, because there are those who reversed the opinions in the Mishnah over here. They had the Mishnah say a little bit different. They had Rebbe Meir hold Rebbe Yehuda's opinion, Rebbe Yehuda hold Rebbe Meir's opinion. So Rebbe Zera said halacha. He didn't say halacha is like Rebbe Yehuda. Rather, he said halacha is that you repeat the same Torah reading on Shabbos by Mincha, and then on Monday, on Thursday, and the next Shabbos you start over from the beginning as well. So being as we have a different version, therefore he continues, therefore he has to repeat like this. I'm going to go back just a little bit. We're on the last page of the Gemara, last side. And it's exciting. We'll make Nasiyam on Thursday. Hashem. And this Amud, this page should have some of the most amazing Gemaras in the entire Shas is on this page. On the last page, where we just read the first line of the last page. I skipped one line. The Gemara gives a short anecdote over here. Regard to Binyan, right over here. Binyan skenim stira. Binyan stira skenim binyan aram stira. If a young person destroys, if a young person builds, he's actually destroying. If an old person is destroying, he's actually building. The similar davar, and a indication of this matter. Hold it over here. Yeah, holding over here. A similar davar, and illustrative to indicate this matter is Rechavam ben Shlomo. Shlomo HaMelech, he was the son of David HaMelech. He was the greatest Jewish king to ever have lived. Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. He was the wisest person to ever have lived, the most powerful to ever have lived. While David HaMelech had to fight wars in order to win his enemies, Shlomo HaMelech was so awesome. He had peace through strength, and he didn't have to even fight wars. So the greatest Jewish king ever was Shlomo HaMelech. He was the 15th generation from Yehuda, and as a Jewish people are compared to the moon, so just like a moon waxes and wanes, from the beginning of the month it gets small, it gets greater, till it has its peak, and then it gets smaller. So for 15 generations, Yehuda was becoming greater and greater till David HaMelech, all the way until Shlomo. He was the greatest Jewish king. His kingdom. Well, we learned previously he ruled over the entire world, but the land of Eretz Yisrael, land of Israel, Jews lived all the way deep into Syria, far south. He ruled over the higher worlds, lower worlds. Now, after Shlomo HaMelech passed away, and because of all the many different sins of Shlomo HaMelech, meaning what sins? He was a great tzaddik. He built the Beis HaMikdash, but he married too many women. He had 1,000 wives. And Torah says you can't have too many wives for a king. I think it was 18. He had too many horses, went to Egypt to get horses, which the Torah says you're not allowed to do. Then, the Egyptian horses were known to be the good horses, and one of the commands of a Jewish king is not to go to Mitzrayim to get horses. They're not allowed to stock up too much money for their own treasure, and Shlomo HaMelech did. And Shlomo HaMelech also charged very high taxes as well. So after Shlomo HaMelech passed away, his son, Rechavam, became the Jewish king. Rechavam and Shlomo. Now, Rechavam, the first act that he did was he dismissed all of his father's advisors, all of Shlomo HaMelech's advisors, and he took his young friends that he knew to be his advisors. And first, he asked the advisors of Shlomo HaMelech, tell me, how should I rule the people? They told him, you're a new king, you're a young king. You have to win the trust of the people. Can't just rely on your father's reputation. And therefore, you should lower taxes. You should give the people more freedom, give them much, be humble. Don't be arrogant in front of the people. Don't be showy in front of the people. And his young friends told him, you have to start off showing how tough you are, how strong you are. People shouldn't step on you. Raise your taxes. And if anybody disagrees, if anybody, be very strict, punish them, penalize them very strongly. And unfortunately, you see what happened. Just go over here. Let's go this way. Unfortunately, he listened to his friends. Again? His friends. He got his close friends to be his personal advisors.
But who told him to be humble and lower taxes?
His father's advisors.
You know. He dismissed it.
Correct. He just totally dismissed it. Let's just look at inside over here on the screen. And Rechavim went to Shechem, and the Jewish people came, the whole nation came to coronate him, make him the king. Yerav Menavat came as well. Yerav Menavat, he was in Egypt. He had fled from Shlem HaMelech. And they spoke to, Yerav Menavat spoke to Rechavim, and he says, your father was too tough on us, too strict on us. Please lower, please lighten the grievous yoke your father Shlem HaMelech has put on us. And then we will be loyal and be of service to you. And Rechavim told them, come back to me in 3 days. First, he asked the old men who were the advisors of Shlomo HaMelech while he was alive, what counsel do you give me regarding the people? And they told him, if you want the people to be your servant and to be loyal to you, be nice to them. And he went and he asked his friends, and his friends told them, be very tough on them, be even tougher than your father. Right? He says, thus, his friends said to him in verse 10, thus shall you say to this people who spoke to you, saying, your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it light for us. So you should tell the people, you think my father was tough. He was easy. I'm going to be much, much tougher on you than them, as it says in Yud Aleph. I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips. I will chastise you with scorpions. Yeravam and all the people came back on the third day, asking Rechavim what to do. And he says, he repeated the advice of his friends, that I'm not showing any mercy. I'll be very, very strict. And the people said, what should we do? We don't want to be part of this kingdom anymore. Not David, not Shlomo, not Yishai. And it ended up that Yerav Menavat rebelled, and he took 10 Shvatim, 10 tribes with him. And Rechavim was left as a king of only 2 Shvatim of 2 tribes. And Yerav Menavat became the first king of the 10 tribes. So more than half of the Jewish people rebelled against Rechavim. And from that time onwards, for the next 250 years, there were 2 kingdoms of the Jewish people, Yehuda and Yisrael, kings of Yehuda, kings of Yisrael. At times they were allies, at times they fought. In general, the kings of Yisrael were generally much more sinful. Yerav Menavat was a tremendously sinful king. And from that time on, until there were 15 kings from Rechavim all the way till Tzidkiyahu, the last king from Yehuda, that's when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and it stopped all the kingdom of Yehuda. No more kings from Yehuda after that point. So because Rechavim listened to the advice of the young people, he ended up destroying the entire kingdom of the Jewish people, his entire kingdom and the kingdom of his fathers. So this is the proof that the Gemara brings, how you should listen to the advice of the elders and not to the advice of the young people. Right, we will pause over here. The Gemara, tomorrow, Mr. Hashem, we are ready on the last Amud of the Gemara. We'll do approximately half of it tomorrow, and then we'll make a siyum here on Thursday, and everyone is invited to be here in person, and we'll be very, very happy.